Thanks so much for checking out Tina Buddy on YouTube. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Hello, and welcome back to Tina Buddy Podcast. I am Erica.
And I am Dominic.
And today we are going to be talking about children's TV shows.
Telly.
Yeah, that we can remember from when we were little.
When we were kids, yeah.
And I don't know about you, but so we went away and we
had to think about
we
this.
We came up with
long and hard.
We came up with our own lists, separate from each other, and we're presenting them to each other now.
Yes.
So
these aren't animated kids shows either.
No.
These aren't cartoons. We'll do that in a separate episode.
No, we had to.
These are like kids shows, like live action or.
And mine are from when I was like really little too.
Oh, really? Yeah, mine are from up until I was about 12 or 13.
Okay.
You know, when I kind of stopped watching kids' TV.
No, I mean, yeah. So when I say kids' TV, I'm talking like for little kids.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess mine was too. Well, I knew a couple of kids in my school who were not allowed to watch television at all.
Like didn't own a television, or maybe
their parents were overzealous about the Devil's Window or whatever it was called.
Oh God.
Yes. Yeah.
Or maybe like they only had one television in the house, and so you know. The parents were watching it or whatever, so you didn't get to watch a lot of what you wanted to watch. I mean, I think I've mentioned before, I was probably spoiled as a kid, so I got to watch a lot of television.
I got to watch a lot of television
and things
too.
that I wanted to watch. Yeah. So do you want to? Oh, anyway, I think I lost track. So my point was just that there's a lot of shows. If you're listening and you're American or you're British, you're going to hear our little and these, I think we chose about around 5-ish. These are not like our top 5 shows or anything. These are just like kind of basically for me the first ones that came to mind, really, that I, and so what I think we're going to have to do, because if you're listening, you're going to hear, well, what about this show? What about that show? What about this one that you didn't mention?
Yeah.
We can do another episode.
We can do another. There can be a part 2 to this.
Yeah, where we can mention some more. Maybe we'll take like you guys' suggestions, things that you can remember, and we'll like talk. Love
how you do that. You know, you're talking to.
I'm pointing at you.
You're pointing at the microphone as if they're there. You know?
As if they can see. Like, we'll take you guys' suggestions.
Yeah.
And we'll like talk about some things that you guys can remember too, but. For this episode, this is going to be things that we can remember. Just a few.
Yeah. Just a few. I've got 5, but
okay. So do you want to like go through all of yours, or do you want to do one and then I do one and then
I'll do one and then you do one and then I'll do one and then you do one.
Okay.
And then I'll do another one and then you do another one.
Okay. It's going to be interesting to see if there's any at all, because again, these are not cartoons. That'll be a separate episode sometime. It'll be interesting, though, to see if any of our shows, like, crossed over.
Crossed over?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, if you guys got any... Probably the case would be more so that you
I
got
think so.
the shows that we
I think most of these
had.
shows that I'm going to list right now were exclusive to Britain.
Yeah.
I'd be very surprised if anywhere else in the world got these.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, my number 1... was actually, and I remember it from when I was pretty young. I mean, I was about apparently 11 because I've listed the years when it came out. Bernard's Watch is my number 1. Have you ever heard of Bernard's Watch?
No.
The first run, because it started in 1997. I thought it started earlier than that. And, when I'm thinking, you think back, you think, oh, God, I remember that when I was a really little, but apparently not,
Oh, yeah.
Bernard's Watch, it started in 1997, so I would have been about 10 or 11 at the time. And it told of a young boy called Bernard.
I love how you translated
Bernard,
to American English.
Because, Bernard. Because I remember someone was making fun of me saying that years ago, Bernard. Why do they say Bernard in Britain? It's like, because it's called, because his name's Bernard, okay? he's from Oakwood in Nottinghamshire, and he was always late until a postman gave him a magic watch, which could stop and rewind time. It was the best show. And he soon found out that the postman had magical powers and that these watches were given to people who needed them, you know.
Yeah.
Could have been an inspiration for J.K. Rowling with the time turner and everything.
Do not get me started on J.K. Rowling.
But maybe not. Maybe because, it's the same sort of story, isn't it? You know, I wish I had a watch that could turn back time, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Share, you know. The rules of him keeping his watch were that he must not use it to commit crimes or hurt anyone. Every episode focused on Bernard or someone whom he'd lent the watch, facing a problem or simply doing day-to-day things and trying to sort them out using the watch. I just thought it was, because I when I was in my teenage years, or, I'd say to my friends, something like, it'd be good if we had Bernard's watch now. And they go, oh, God, you watched that show too. That's that was the best show.
Oh, so you would like reference it?
I'd reference
in that
it,
way?
yeah, reference it, yeah. And it's funny, because I think I saw someone on Twitter saying, oh, if only we had Bernard's watch right now with the things that are going on,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember if I was on Twitter or Instagram I saw that. But yeah, just that, and that's kind of what prompted me to suggest this episode today, like kids shows that we used to watch. But it was so good, the little boy Bernard, and he was, it was just so cool how it would, he could turn his watch. Because I think it was either a digital watch or was it a stopwatch? I can't remember now. I seem to remember it was a stopwatch. And then later on it was a digital one.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, that was a really great show. I guess it didn't come on over here, or you didn't have anything like that.
No.
Do a remake. Like,
I mean, no, not that I know of. No.
Yeah.
I mean, it's entirely possible. I haven't seen all the shows, after all.
Yeah, I mean that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway,
okay? So
on to you now.
Mine is like a really obvious one when talking about American kid shows, and maybe you can even guess it. Actually, I'll see if you can guess it. The most obvious American kids show that comes to mind.
The most obvious.
Anything?
Like a Disney show? Because I presume all your kid shows, like, because you have live action Disney show, the Mouse Club, Mickey Mouse Club.
We had it.
I'm guessing.
Well, when I was,
I guess
a kid,
we had that, but
I didn't put any.
I never watched it.
I didn't have any Disney. I don't have any Disney shows on this list.
Ooh.
Actually, just
considering how much
for you guys.
Disney Channel.
Well, no. When I was a kid, Disney Channel cost.
Oh, it cost money, didn't it?
Yeah, so we didn't have it.
Thought this was America.
We didn't get the Disney Channel. No, it was like a cable show. You had to pay. It was an extra charge. So, we only had 13 channels when I was little.
We only had 4, and then it was 5, and now it's like maybe 6 or 7.
Okay, well, I thought maybe you might guess it, but
no.
Mine is Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Yeah, I've heard a lot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that didn't come on in Britain?
I don't think so.
That's
I mean, it might have been shown on. I know for a fact Saved by the Bell was.
Oh yeah.
But that's like a teen drama, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to put that on my list, but maybe on a different list.
Channel 4, which was like our American channel, you may as well call it. They bought shows from over here. That's where Friends became popular. Yeah. That's where Seinfeld became popular.
So Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood came on PBS. It was a PBS show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, in case you're listening and you're not in America, PBS stands for Public Broadcasting System, and it's essentially like Britain's BBC.
Station, I thought it was. Public Broadcasting Station.
Station, maybe. I thought it was the system. Yeah, it's like...
It's the system.
It's like a network,
System,
But I could be wrong.
It's in the system.
But anyway, it's like the BBC. There's no commercials. We don't have to pay a license to have the television in order to get PBS, but they do take donations. They have public funding. Yeah. So therefore, there's no commercials or anything on there. But Mr. Rogers Neighborhood. Oh, I didn't put. Oh,
I love how you've drawn a line here.
I did. Don't look at my diagrams, for God's sake.
I'm much more technologized.
I've written mine in a little notebook, if you can hear the paper. I did the same thing as you for most of these, but apparently not Mr. Rogers. So I cannot tell you, unfortunately.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. You sing that all the time when you're prancing around.
I think it ran from, like, I want to say the 60s, but maybe...
Oh, maybe.
Maybe it was from the 70s. But yeah, so it was an educational show, and basically he had a heavy influence on teaching kids to be themselves. You know, the best thing about you is that you're you, and you're different from everybody else.
Yeah.
And being you is what makes you special, and you don't want to be like anyone else, and you embrace how you are, and you want to be an honest person and
sod everyone else.
You want to be honest, and you want to be true to yourself, and whatever. So the whole concept was, you're in his house, right? You come in, he's just like, oh, hello, neighbor. You know, he comes in, like, presumably from work or whatever. He takes off his jacket and puts on his little sweater to get comfy. He takes off his dress shoes and puts on his little, like, sneakers, and, you know, and...
I thought it was slippers he puts on.
No, it's like a little pair of sneakers.
Because, I mean, I've seen this stuff. I mean, there's the recent movie Tom Hanks playing him.
Yeah.
And it's like a documentary about someone interviewing him. Yeah, well, not a documentary. It's like a sort of biopic.
Yeah.
But, you know, about this guy who interviewed him and was like, oh, you know.
Yeah.
Why are you this way or whatever, you know.
And so, you know, we were in his house with him. There would be puppets involved in the episodes. There was a mailman who would bring him his mail. You know, he would take you around his neighborhood and, or take us around his neighborhood and give us tours of factories and local businesses and stuff. He would interview people that were, like, doing good, you know, that ran jobs, about their jobs or about, like, an organization it was a very educational show.
Yeah.
And then he had this was my favorite part, the little trolley to the neighborhood of make-believe. And you would follow the trolley, and then it would just go down into, like, the little neighborhood, and then and it was basically like a little diorama.
He had like a little diorama.
It was like a little set of a little town, but then you'd go in like that, and it would be like, and then you'd be in there, you know, and all those characters, and it was just a great show. It was very positive, very, like, you know,
heartwarming.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's
the end.
So that from the 60s, because I looked up
I did. I think for all the rest of them, but for that one, I don't have it. I don't know. I apologize.
Well, my next one is The Sooty Show / Sooty and Co.
Yeah, and you show me this one.
Yeah, The Sooty Show, that ran from the 50s onwards. It ran from, like, 55 to 92. And first it was Harry H. Corbett, or Harry Corbett. No, his name was Harry Corbett because there was another actor called Harry H. Corbett who was in Steptoe and Son. And so, he called himself Harry H. Corbett to distinguish from Harry Corbett, who was the presenter of The Sooty Show.
Yeah.
And it was, Sooty's this bear. He's this yellow bear with black ears. Mm-hmm. And he's a puppet, obviously, a hand puppet. But, he's like, he doesn't speak, but he whispers into, his ear. And he had a little panda bear. I guess she was his girlfriend, Sue. And the dog, Sweep, who was squeaky. Sue spoke. Yeah. Sue had a voice, but Sweep had this, like, you do your little Sweep voice sometimes. It's like, and I say, oh, you sound like Sweep. Yeah, he's like very whistly, like whatever. That ran with Harry Corbett up until, I think, the 70s, when he retired and gave the reins over to his son, Matthew. And he kind of followed the same kind of format until, in the 80s, they decided to make it like a sitcom, where he was kind of like a fatherly figure to them all, and they have all lived in this house. They all got up to it was really good, because, I mean, that's when I started watching it, because I was a kid then. I was like, started watching it, and he'd be like, Matthew would be trying to rein them all in. Sooty would be getting into scrapes. Sweep would be getting into scrapes, and
Yeah.
they all lived in this little house. It was really cute, you know.
Yeah.
And they had little cousin Scampy who they introduced, and he was this grey bear from like Australia somewhere. And he had a little like cap on, and I seem to remember he had like one of those like, you know, those classic, you know, like cross plasters, you know, like the band-aids that were in a cross, you know, like a cartoon band-aid on it all the time. I'm not sure, I might be remembering that wrong, but I remember he was like, and little cousin Scampy, he was like really, he was more mischievous than Sooty even, you know.
Yeah.
And Sooty was always trying to rein him in. And
he wasn't a koala bear?
No, he was. No, he might have been. Come to think of it, no. He was. He looked like a grey version of Sooty, but smaller.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Sooty. I had a Sooty hot water bottle as a kid. Because his Izzy Wizzy Let's Get Busy, you know, he used to do like
50s?
little magics. Yeah, from the 50s. I'm actually from the 50s, everyone. But yeah, that they stopped airing the Sooty show in '92, and then they went to a new format where they ran a bric-a-brac shop.
What? That's so random.
And you know, it was called Sooty and Co. And then years later, you know, that's when it was like that ran from the 93 to 98, and by that time I kind of stopped watching it. You know, I was growing up.
Yeah.
And then I heard that, you know, he'd retired, Matthew Corbett, and given over, and it's kind of gone back to the original format now with a new presenter, and you know, it still comes on.
It's funny because I can't think of any shows nowadays except for like Sesame Street.
We're obsessed with bears
that
in
have
Britain.
puppets, though. Like a lot of kids' shows back when you and I were kids had puppets.
Yeah, I think. Oh well, no, not mine. Oh yeah. My next one after your one.
You know, we've got a little niece and nephew, and we've kind of gotten to see the types of things that they watch, and they don't watch anything with puppets. Not that I can think of.
Everything is computer generated now. Everything is
Yeah.
CGI or, you know, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, they were using that in the 80s, you know, it was like a novelty thing, but yeah, puppets were like, oh yeah, this is cute.
Yeah.
Because I remember Sooty, you never saw him, you know, they were always behind like some sort of like thing where there was a hand, you
Like
know,
a little
the puppet,
table
and
or
there was a little
something.
face, you know, and
Yeah.
everything was a little table, and you know, I remember Matthew was like, you know, it was like chest high, and he'd be talking, you'd be like, what are you doing? Oh yes, you know, you know, and they'd have like little cute little sets like breakfast tables and like when they had to go to bed and stuff, and it was like the bedroom set, and you know,
Yeah.
but when they were out, I remember they'd have like, you know, things like where you'd have to show Sooty walking, and you know, they'd just show it from his thing down, his little legs going like that. It's like, oh god, it's cute. You would have loved it. You love cute legs walking.
Well, you've shown it to me. Yeah, you guys, if you want to see what Dominic's talking about, I think you can find it on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, the early episodes from like the 50s, I think they might still be in existence. I'm not sure the 60s and 70s. But the best ones to me are the ones with Matthew Corbett, because he was from my generation, you know.
Yeah.
And when it changed to like a sitcom format, and Sue and Sweep, yeah. The end.
My next one is Reading Rainbow. Yeah, another.
I only knew about that thanks to you, I think.
Oh, so that didn't come on in Britain either?
No, it didn't.
Oh, that's interesting.
No, it didn't. I don't think.
So Reading Rainbow sort of felt like, because you said Sesame Street came on in Britain, right?
Sesame Street did come on in
so
Britain.
Reading Rainbow,
I never really watched it, but I had friends who did.
Reading Rainbow to me always felt like it was like an extended version of a Sesame Street segment.
Oh,
do you know what I mean? Like, it's something that should have been inserted in Sesame Street, and they were just like, oh, you know what, actually we can make an entire show on this. It was hosted by LeVar Burton. I think he hosted it the entire time. And
it went from like the 80s, didn't
from
it?
like 1983 to 2006. Yeah, so quite a while.
Yeah.
LeVar Burton, if you guys don't know, was Geordi on Star Trek The Next Generation.
He had way more popularity worldwide as Geordi LaForge on Star Trek The Next Generation.
Yeah. And it's another...
I think Reading Rainbow even did, when he started on Next Generation, Reading Rainbow did an episode.
Oh, I'm sure.
Dedicated to what he was doing on Star Trek because, that was the first season.
I'm sure they probably maybe had him on, like, as his Geordie character or something like that. That seems like something they would have done. Again, it's an educational kids show that came on PBS. And each episode was centered around a topic in a book or, maybe like a short piece of literature, and they'd explore whatever the topic was, of the book. And it was basically just an entire show devoted to encouraging kids to read.
Yeah.
And
get out there and read.
I think when it ended, LeVar Burton was like saying something like, let's don't stop this, we're gonna keep on, but like now you can read on the iPad, you can read on your Kindle, you can read, and you can find the books on there. And I kind of think maybe they have some sort of like Reading Rainbow program on those things, but it's not a show anymore.
Did that come on PBS?
Yeah, it was another PBS show, educational kids show.
Yeah.
And they had people that would come on and talk, and it was all the same kinds of things. But anybody like my age can remember this song, the theme song, like the butterfly in the sky, I can fly just as I take a look, it's in a book, it's Reading Rainbow. It was like such an iconic intro song. But that was another kid's show.
That was a really cute little kid's show for you. Yeah. No, as I said, I only really knew about it since moving over here, and like seeing like a featurette on like Reading Rainbow and on Star Trek: The Next Generation. Like something about that on YouTube or something. It was.
Oh yeah.
My next one, number 3, is Wizardora.
That sounds cute.
Wizardora?
No idea what that is.
That ran from 93. These are all on
That's
ITV,
not a cartoon?
funnily enough. No.
That sounds like that would have been like the name of a cartoon, Wizardora.
Wizardora, no. That ran from 93 to 98. It was... Wizardora is a trainee wizard who is always trying to solve problems using magic.
A trainee?
Yeah, she lived in like a little cottage.
Oh my god!
And she was training to be a wizard, kind of like in Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
Oh yeah, cute.
And they kind of expanded on that. And the episodes all took place in and around Wizadora's cottage with Tatty Bogle, a dim-witted scarecrow. What's that from? What's that harking back to?
Right.
Who lives in Wizadora's back garden and continually gets words muddled up. Then there was... that was played by an actual guy with like a straw wig and, he looked like a scarecrow,
Oh, yeah.
Hangle, he was a purple coat hanger.
Okay.
But he insists on calling himself a cloak hanger, and he had a yellow rain glasses and a purple mustache. And he had a crude sense of humour, and he had his, I always remember his head was like the hook of the cloak hanger,
What?
He was a puppet, obviously, but, he was just like, always like, oh yes, Wizardora,
That's so weird.
And I remember Stan the shopkeeper, played by Brian Murphy, actually, who's done a load of stuff. He was actually in George. He was George in George and Mildred.
Okay.
In Britain.
If you didn't hear our last podcast, George and Mildred was
one of the answers.
One of the answers to one of the questions that we did. Go back and listen to Dominic quizzing me on UK trivia.
And he regularly takes delivery of new magical catalogue items, and she'd come to him.
Okay.
She'd be like, oh, Stan, what have you got for me today? And he'd be like, oh, I don't know. This is all silly Wizardora, you just be a little bit... but they'd be all like friends. And I remember she had a phone that was like a magical phone that spoke. I can't remember what the name of that was. But yeah, it was... the theme song was Wizardora... she's the one who will brighten up your day. And it was like a really cute thing. These all came on CITV, which, you'd expect stuff to come on the BBC, but that was more like animated and like,
Oh, yeah.
thing. But CITV had the whole, it was all there,
Yeah.
I really did love Wizardora, though, because it was just like, oh, God, this is a bit crazy. And she did look like a little bit like, someone out of Harry Potter, the woman who played Wizardora,
Yeah.
She had, like, short, kind of, like, mumsy 90s hair, but she was, like, like, hippie looking,
Oh, yeah.
Bit like, what's the character? Professor Trelawney.
Oh, just like crazy then.
A little bit, but she was like, oh,
Wizardora sounds like it would be like a crazy kind of.
Yeah, that was her name, Wizardora.
Yeah. My next one is the Bozo Show. And
Bozo the Clown?
Yeah.
I've only heard of, I'm familiar with the concept.
So, Bozo, it was so interesting because it was like the first local kids show that made it really big. It was just a local kids show out of Chicago. It came on WGN. It was like a morning show, and I can remember every day of my life as a little kid, I would write into that show because I wanted to be like you could be in the studio audience.
Oh, yeah,
and then like, I think it was at the end of the show, they would do a game where they would draw your name or your number or whatever from the audience, and you'd come and you tried to throw the ping pong ball into the little buckets, and they had different one, it would go out farther and farther like that. I just thought that was like the ultimate fun thing, and I would want to do it, and there were prizes you could win. So it was always like making my mom and my grandma like fill this out and send it in for me. They probably never did. Probably never ever
No,
did.
you're gonna find them going through stuff and all your letters are sealed up, and it's like, you never sent them.
I wanted to be a guest on that show so bad. So it ran from the 60s.
Yeah, I think I don't know if it must have come on in Britain, or like the concept was familiar,
So he was a clown, obviously, Bozo, and then he'd have all these like little like sidekick clowns. The one that I can remember, I think his name was Cookie the Cook.
Oh yeah.
And he was like crazy looking, It was very circus-y,
Yeah.
The whole background was like sort of like a circus tent or like curtains, and they had circus acts, they had an orchestra. It was basically like a variety show though at the end of the day, but then they also had games and prizes, and they would show cartoons, now time for a cartoon. It was like just a classic kind of kids show.
Classic kids show.
Yeah, comedy sketches and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, it ran from the 60s. A lot of the ones I have on this list, they weren't like strictly from my childhood. They were really running from much earlier on, and that was one of them. Yeah, but it gained national attention, and like just everybody, all the kids loved Bozo.
All the kids just loved Bozo.
It's so funny because where was the clown phobia back then? You know what I mean? Like, everybody loved
still
Bozo.
There, maybe that's what.
Maybe
not everyone loved Bozo. Apparently,
maybe because he was quite creepy. Really, quite creepy looking when you when you look back at him. Yeah, but I loved him.
Good old Bozo there.
Bozo the clown.
Bozo there for everyone. My next one is my number 4 is Zap. Zap. Yeah.
Yeah.
That ran from 93 to 2001. The concept of the show, it's a giant 18-foot comic that has been brought to life. It's like a comic book. Like you have different characters in comic books.
Oh, that's cute.
And every kind of like week there would be like 2 or 3 characters that they do like little bits from. Mm-hmm. One of my favourites from there was the Handymen, which were 2 gloved hands, one yellow and one blue, and they appear on stage, and they used to have like music playing, do 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 do,
Yeah.
And they'd be either making an object or performing a magic trick, and all you'd see was the hands, doing it. I love them, and I think they were like they ran through the whole thing. Cuthbert Lilly. He's dead silly, and it was basically slapstick comedy, and, he was failing to perform simple tasks and, ruining everyone's lives, basically in the process, Smarty Artie, which was played by Neil Buchanan of Art Attack fame. Pretty much if I had to pick someone who was on TV my entire childhood, it would be Neil Buchanan. He was in Art Attack, he was in the next one I'm going to talk about is Finders Keepers, and I think he was in Zap as well.
Yeah.
And he played Smarty Artie, and he was the sketches involved like drawings created with a magic pen which brought as many drawings to life, you know.
Yeah.
He'd draw something because he's an artist, and that's what Art Attack was about too, you know. Everybody of my generation remembers Neil Buchanan and Art Attack. If you didn't, then there was something seriously wrong, or you didn't watch TV, you know.
Yeah.
Daisy Daisy was another character, which was like a mischievous schoolgirl with freckles and hair bunches, but she wasn't a schoolgirl. She was probably in her 20s.
Yeah.
She would set difficult challenges for a small group of children who were selected from like local schools or drama organizations. And if the children succeeded in performing the challenge, Daisy would start to cry or throw a tantrum. She'd go, wah, wah, you know, like you did, wah, ah, you know. But if they all failed, she would laugh and celebrate her victory. Like, yeah,
oh my God.
She was a butt.
So there was like an audience?
There wasn't an audience. No, it was just they'd select.
It was just at home.
It was like it was. She'd just select these kids. You know, these kids would be selected for this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And she'd set them the challenge, and it would kind of be like a comic book. You know, like they'd just be like speech bubbles would come up, and they'd be like. You know,
oh, that's cute. You know. Yeah.
I mean, I'll have to show you an episode maybe later on. Because I want to get into this nostalgia business. We're on lockdown here.
You guys, yeah,
I'm in lockdown.
We encourage you to look these shows we're mentioning up on YouTube
Zap,
if you want.
Yeah, on YouTube. Yeah, they're all on YouTube.
If you want to go on this nostalgia trip along with us. My next one, we're going to have to speed this up. We're running out of time.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can afford a couple of more minutes.
My next one
we're on lockdown.
My next one. I'm curious if you American listeners are going to remember this one. Because it ended in 1990. It ran from 73 to 1990, and it was called Pinwheel, and it came on Nickelodeon.
Pinwheel!
Yes! It was like one of my favorite shows when I was really, really little. And my mom can remember me singing the theme song. But basically, it was just like a Sesame Street ripoff that came on Nickelodeon. It had a mixture of puppets and human characters that all lived in this Victorian house.
The classic combination.
Yeah, and it took place in this Victorian boarding house.
Yeah.
And centered around the people who lived and worked in the house and on the street, you know, surrounding the house in the neighborhood. Yeah. And it was like, it was like, pinwheel, spinning around, look at my pinwheel and see what I found. It would be like close up like that.
Yeah, that's what kind of like what Zap did, you know, it'd be like that giant comic, and then the people would be like in the like little windows of it, you know.
Oh yeah.
And you know they would like, you know, just like it would be like, oh, who are you gonna zoom into today? You know, we'd zoom into like Cuthbert Lily, you know, or we'd zoom into like the Handyman, and I'd be like, oh, you know, sometimes I remember getting all excited, going, oh, I really want to see, you know, Cuthbert Lily or Daisy Daisy or whatever, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that was mine. Pinwheel from Nickelodeon. Yeah.
My next one, following on from Smarty Artie, Neil Buchanan, as I was saying.
This has become the Neil Buchanan podcast.
Yeah. He was hosted this show called Finders Keepers, which was based on an American show of the same name.
Oh, yeah, it sounds familiar.
It came, and apparently it didn't do so well over here. Like, only ran for one season, whereas, like, it ran for, like, 6 or something in Britain. But it was the best show, you know. The set was, like, rooms within a house, but there was a live audience, you know, and it was, like, kids of, like, two teams of 2 kids. You know, like, rooms within a house, like, mum and dad's bedroom, the bathroom, the kitchen, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And the 2 teams were given the opportunity to raid the room across, like, 8 rooms. And 2 rounds to find hidden objects.
Oh.
Identified by clues read out by the host prior to the raiding, you know, and they'd be like, oh, you know, and they'd have to figure out what it was. They'd be like, oh, you know.
So it was like a kid's game show.
It was a game show, yeah.
Yeah.
Each room lasted 30 seconds, and if the object was found, it won the team 25 points in the first round and 50 points in the second. If a team did not find their object, the points went to the other team. Each raid was hectic because the rooms had streamers, confetti, and silly string, coming out of, like, the taps and stuff like that, just to kind of, and they all had, like, thing, and they were trying to find it, and all the kids would be like, ha, 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 loving it in the audience,
Yeah.
It was the same stuff that kids watch on YouTube today.
I remember something like that.
I think, actually, your brother mentioned Finders Keepers, and I was like, that came on over here, too, but I had no idea it was an American show, but it was, yeah. Neil Buchanan hosted it, and it was just so fun, I was like, I'd love to go on that show, I'd love to be like...
You never, applied, though? I always, any of these shows I really loved... I guess,
just to quickly, because this is the end of my list, Funhouse was another show around the same time. Pat Sharp, 80s mullet, and, 80s blonde mullet, and the twins, Melanie and Martina.
Yeah.
And it was so fun because it was like a game show again. I did apply to go on Funhouse. Anyone who's my age definitely did. Obstacle courses and stuff to get things, gunging, and the final thing was
Gunge is like slime, by the way.
Sliming people. And I remember the final round was them doing a circuit in go-karts, and grabbing things as they went.
Oh, yeah.
It was so much fun. Yeah, that was from when I was really, little. That was from, late 80s to, mid-90s, I think.
My last one, Pee-wee's Playhouse? Did that one come on in Britain?
No, it didn't. But... when I'm thinking back to Cuthbert Lilly from Zap, he was looked a bit like Pee-wee Herman.
Oh, okay.
He had, spiky hair, and he had, a little, pink suit and a pink bow tie. And...
Pee-wee's Playhouse did not run for long.
There was some controversy there.
It ran on CBS from 86 to 1990, but it was, super, super 80s pop. You know what I mean? B-52s, very, everything very, geometric.
New wave.
Yeah. Bright colors, and, it was, super 80s, and Pee-wee Herman obviously was the host of it. I think it was based on a stage show that he did, and had an HBO special with that was, basically the same, except for the humor, and it was for adults, obviously.
And what his thing was Tequila, wasn't it? The song Tequila, and his little dance was
that was from the movie, yeah.
From the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he used to do that all the time. I was like, what are you doing? Randomly doing it when Tequila came on in the middle of the grocery store. I was like,
is she okay? Is she okay? God, I'm going to push you out of your chair.
There's a group of teenagers going, is she all right? Because you're...
Okay, we gotta get through this. Pee-wee Herman was the host of the show. He lived in a fantastic playhouse with puppet. It was in Puppet Land. The house,
Puppet
it was like a playhouse. It was filled with toys and gadgets and magical furniture that could talk. And I seem to remember a head. There was a head in a box. Yeah, it was a crazy freaking show.
A severed head.
No, he talked. Yeah, the head talked. It was I don't know. He was I'm not sure.
He was a bit like Hangle.
Each episode contained a running gag or an event or a dilemma that would send Pee-wee into a frenzy, and he would just go crazy. And at the beginning of each episode, and Andy Cohen of Bravo has ripped this off, there was a secret word. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Only in Pee-wee Herman, you didn't drink like you do when you're watch what happens live on Bravo. So there was a secret word at the beginning of every episode when the kids at home heard somebody in the show say the secret word. We were encouraged to scream, ah! Just crazy. Just the whole show was crazy. But it was fun and loud and vibrant and crazy. And it was everything a little kid wants to watch.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was my last one. We're totally way, way, way over time. Sorry if you are used to us only talking at you for 30 minutes.
Yes, this has been a fun episode.
Yeah, we hope you enjoyed it. Like I said at the start of the episode, let us know some other shows that you guys can remember, kids shows, and we'll talk about them in another podcast.
Yes.
All right. We hope
Thanks
you're
for listening.
Yeah. Yes, thank you for listening. We hope you're all staying safe and are healthy and staying sane in this crazy time.
And I'm not doing the Pee Wee Herman dance.
And we appreciate you listening. As always, we appreciate your support and thank you so much. And we will talk to you all next time. Bye. Bye.